case closed.
And then hopefully all the trustees read that material. You think they're gonna read it?
How do we get, what do we do bank accounts? We open accounts in the bank for payroll?
You don't think
Yeah,
Sherman's
we're
gonna
gonna
read it?
move the money into there just to keep it.
Where's our flag? Oh, we gotta get a flag.
It's there.
Mechanical control, fine.
We're ready? We're good? Excuse me, I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. Good evening, residents, and to our viewing audience. This is the Village of Broadview's Finance Committee meeting. The time is now, 7:18. I am the chairman, Trustee Judy Abraham. To my left is
Paul Kurtzer, Broadview Police Department. Start at the end of the table.
Timothy Hicks, Finance Director.
to my right.
John Tierney, trustee.
And Tom Hood, the Treasurer and Budget Officer.
Okay, at this time, I ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if we could please have a moment of silence or reflection. Okay, thank you. Before we start, I also like to let the residents and the viewers at home know that this is a panel discussion. We are here to provide information. We have different topics on the agenda, and they will be discussed. And if the trustees don't have any questions, I will open it up to the residents that are here. And you can just come up to the podium, state your name, and then ask your question. Okay. Item number 2 is the fiscal year 18 audit, and that will be discussed and explained by our director, our finance director, Mr. Tim Hicks.
Yeah, good evening. First and foremost, just want to let everyone know that the audit was completed. This year took a little longer than usual for a couple of reasons. One is that we had to have an OPEB audit, which is other post-employment benefit audit, done along with the financial audit, as well as the village taking on more responsibility for the audit. So we completed a lot of schedules and a lot of work papers ourselves this year that we've in the past have relied on Baker Tilly to complete. Additionally, because of all of the capital improvements that was being done, and with our fixed asset policy being very, the capitalization amount being low, that required Baker Tilly to do much more testing this year than they had in the past. Baker Tilly has committed to be at the next board meeting, so I won't go into too much more further detail because they'll be here themselves to talk about the results of the audit and any questions that trustees or board members may have. But this audit, as with previous year's audit, was a clean audit opinion, meaning that we got basically a thumbs up from Baker Tilly that our financial records are in good standing, and I think that's really it for this. Now, the reports have been distributed to the trustees, and the reports will be posted on the village's website if it hasn't been already. And that's Trustee Abraham, is there any questions?
I don't have any questions, no.
Okay. We did confirm that we will be having a presentation. We just don't have a date set yet, correct, right?
No, the auditors will be at the next board meeting.
They will be at the next one.
Yes, they're committed to be at the next board meeting.
Okay, good. So we'll have them there. And again, as it was stated, the trustees did receive the information so that they can start reviewing and reading that information as well. So if they have any further questions, they can bring it up that night. Anything else? Do we have any questions from the residents regarding our audit until we have a presentation? Yes, Mrs. Redmond?
Yes, will the residents be able to see whatever it is, so that if we want to know and ask questions, do we have to wait another month after you all talk about it?
No, the report should be posted.
The next board meeting, is it going to be posted now so that we can?
It should be.
Say?
Okay.
And then you can talk about it. Okay, so then I have to withhold the questions until then.
Well, you also have Baker and Tilly here at the next board meeting, so they'll go through their presentation and what their findings were and all that as well. So, again, so it's obviously a process.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Clarify. Okay.
No problem. Any other questions from our residents? None? All right, we'll move on to, thank you, Mr. Director Hicks. Now we'll move on to item 3, discussion of the Village Hall renovations and a 911 center project update, and that'll be given by Mr. Paul Kurtzner from the Police Department.
Good evening. We are quickly approaching the end of the municipal building renovation and the 911 construction project. But that quickly approaching time means that there's a lot of things that are going on within a very tight schedule in order to be completed on time. Based on my last report in February, the furniture for the administrative and the building departments has been obtained and set into place. The municipal building lobby is currently being worked on, as well as the council chambers. The work that's being done in the lobby is a completely new facelift, getting the walls, sound dampeners are being put into place, and they're still waiting on some of the display cases that are going to be available in there. The council chambers itself, or the courtroom, whichever you prefer to call it, is being stripped and prepped with sound dampeners. The wood is getting sanded and stained in order to match the new cosmetics of the building, and the wall is in the process of being painted. The conduits have been run for the audio-visual equipment that's going to be in there, so we no longer have to bring out the traveling road show for our audio-visual people. They will have that in place for them and readily available, and that also helps us as we're going to be utilizing the council chambers more often in a training environment as well as a meeting environment during all hours instead of just having it shut down for limited purposes. So that's going to be a benefit. The remaining sections of the police department, which was the old section that we've just recently vacated, the walls have been torn down. The new area is going to be designated for our roll call, our watch commander's office, as well as our report room. We did do a pressure test of our sprinkler system, and it previously leaks that we were aware of, but we could not pinpoint were actually discovered, and this discovery took place as a fact of the ceilings being taken down and removed. So we were able to see a more wider area as far as what's going on upstairs. That sprinkler test revealed leaks that were occurring in the sprinkler system leading from our main pumping room into our garage area. And this was a result of being close to 30 years old, the joints were rusting out and so forth. So it was deemed to be in the best interest to replace those pipes completely. So therefore, we're going to be good on that. The village is scheduled to return to normal operations at the municipal building on April 22nd, which is a Monday, and that is our current schedule, and we seem to be on schedule to complete that task. In preparation for that, on Wednesday, April 17th, the village closes early on Wednesdays. They're going to be closing operations at the fire department on the 17th. They will be closed for services on that Thursday and Friday in order to facilitate the move from the fire department into the municipal building. So on April 22nd, which is a Monday, all businesses will be conducted at the new remodeled facility. So please be advised that for 2 days, that Thursday, Friday, the village will be closed. There's going to be publishing more as we come along and make everyone aware via the website and so forth. Concerning finances, we sent a letter to the Cook County Sheriff's Office concerning this Maywood surcharge revenues. Back in the early 1990s, when the 911 surcharge was put into place for the village of Maywood, there was an agreement between Maywood and Cook County for sharing of the 60153 zip code. That was based on unincorporated areas. The agreement that was made between the villages of Maywood and the Cook County Sheriff's Department was that Cook County received 28.9% of all surcharge revenues based on 911 surcharge fees of the 60153 zip code. This did not affect the village of Broadview, as prior to this we changed our zip code from 60153 to 60155, for those of you who remembered it. The unincorporated area that is in contention is roughly the medical complex, which is Roosevelt Road to the railroad tracks, 1st Avenue to 9th Avenue. After doing some research, using some documentation from the government bureaus and so forth, there's 3 major complexes there. You have Loyola Hospital, Madden Mental Health, and JJ Madden, and Heinz VA. I submitted a letter requesting that that surcharge be renegotiated from the 28.9% that county receives to 5%. The reason for my argument and thinking behind this is that, number one, Heinz has its own municipal police department. They are veteran affairs officers. Police services for Madden is handled by Cook County as well as for Loyola. However, fire department services are handled by the Broadview Fire Department for all 3 municipalities, Madden, Heinz, and Loyola. Based on the amount of calls for police service that comes out of Loyola, speaking to their security, I believe that 5% of the surcharge revenues is a more in-line number for that service area than roughly 30%. The letter was sent to Cook County. Cook County's 911 board will review it. I'm sure we'll get some responses back saying that they shouldn't maintain the 30%, but it's something that's in negotiation. But I want everyone to be aware of that this is an active financial situation that we're working towards resolving. Last month, I also spoke about change orders, about how change orders can affect the cost of the building. Based on the request of the trustees, they requested that I send them an email concerning those change orders that did take place. The very next day, I did so. With that in mind, we've had some additional change orders that have come up in the month of February. These cover areas such as heating and cooling, glazing, which is window tinting, flooring, power and data connections, the sprinkler pipes that I mentioned previously, range ductwork and reinforcements, and so forth. The good news behind this is, because we were so low on our initial cost estimates compared to the bids, a lot of this is being absorbed by our guaranteed rate for the construction costs, and then the various contingencies that the vendors bid on. So when everyone put in a bid, there was also a contingency that was put into place. Roundabout numbers, pending audit and financial stuff. We had, so far to date, $536,000 in changes that have occurred. Of that, 97,000 has been extra. And out of that 97,000 was a upgrade of our UPS system, which can be absorbed with the maximum cost that we kind of projected for our bond works and so forth, as well as $30,000 that's being done in the council chambers. Bottom line, as it is right now, I am foreseeing that we are still considerably under budget for the $10 million that we've pretty much earmarked for this, as well as the communication side of the 50-50 split between the village of Broadview and the village of Maywood. We are still even underneath those numbers. So we are diligent as far as nailing these things down and not going wild with tax money. Any questions?
Paul, the sprinkler system,
Yes.
that doesn't include the pump, that's just strictly the piping for the...
Yeah, the majority of the sprinkler system was replaced because we had to deal with some IT issues that need to be addressed, some evidence issues that were addressed. This was just a water flow for our sprinklers that was going from our garage main that went through our old investigative section and then into our garage area. And we were seeing leaks, but we were never able to determine exactly where those leaks were occurring because water travels.
So it wasn't the whole piping system?
No,
Just certain
it was
areas.
certain
Okay.
areas of the piping systems, and it pretty much was with the joints. And the joints were found to be corroded and rusting away. But that's metal, 30 years old. I think we got our lifespan out of that. But we were unable to determine because the ceilings weren't taken down.
The other thing is, thanks for taking on the initiative to try and get that surcharge reduced. It makes sense what you're saying, but sometimes common sense doesn't resonate in the political world. But thanks for taking that on, appreciate it. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sending us the updates with the changes, so that's perfect as well. So we're able to pull that up and see what other adjustments were made and what's still outstanding, so appreciate that. I don't have any further questions. I'm excited, for us to be moving back over there. I'm sure the mayor and the staff is looking forward to April. And I'm sure, like you said, they will be putting out the proper notices regarding the closing and the operations and how that's all going to be affected with this move back into the newer facility.
Newer facility.
Newer facility and updated. So definitely looking forward to see how it's all going to be different. So excited about that. At this time, I'll ask if any of our residents here have any questions or comments regarding this. Anyone? I just need you to... You know what, that's fine, Ms. Rubin, come on up. You're good, you're good.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you, Mr. Kirkman, for doing such a great job, and whoever else on this committee. I appreciate the thorough information and the job that you're doing to try to save us money and give us great service. Here's two questions I have. How does, with the 28% sharing of the surcharge that goes to Cook County, how does that affect our intergovernmental agreement?
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
It doesn't.
So
What happens with the surcharge money is that, give you a brief rundown for those of you who might not be familiar with it. On your cell phone bill or on your landline bill, you see a fee on there that's $1.50, that's a surcharge. Okay. Everyone sees that, no matter if you are a Broadview resident, a Maywood resident, Westchester, or whomever, you see that. The percentage comes into play, whereas out of that $1.50, 28% of it goes, in Maywood's situation, to the village, to Cook County. The 70% of it goes to Maywood. Broadview, it doesn't affect us whatsoever. It hasn't been affecting us in any way whatsoever. The only reason why I'm bringing this up now is since Maywood and Broadview are merging that 911 surcharge people, I have a problem with the 28%.
okay, and I understand that, but I also wanted to know, because I'd asked this question, I think, at the last meeting, how much money have we gotten from Maywood for the intergovernmental agreement, and what the payment schedule, and because if some of it's going to Cook County, and let's say they say, forget it,
But that's completely.
It's a separate difference.
It's a
Two
separate
different
different thing.
issues.
So right now, as
Okay.
it stands, we have the Broadview ETSB, which
Okay.
has their 911 surcharge money, and you have the Maywood ETSB, which is Maywood surcharge money. Eventually, when we get this project completed, it'll be one, and I want to get this matter resolved beforehand. Your second part of your question concerning finances, and as far as what Maywood has contributed to the project. From my understanding is that Maywood has contributed their funds to the escrow account. Where it's coming into play is we're not going to be sending them a bill every month or every 2 weeks as we get bills. We are going to be doing a one lump sum after our auditors and their auditors take a look at it and say, hey, this is a Broadview of building bill, not a 911 bill. And then after the building and the 911 bills have been separated, then we say, okay, 50%, this is Broadview's fees, these are Maywood's fees, and then it's drawn out of that escrow account.
But money is in that escrow account is what you're telling me right now.
That's what I have been
And so
informed.
we have something to take something out of.
Yes,
All right, and so down the road, we'll know when the auditors, whatever, who tell us what that is. I'd like to know, I think the residents would like to know how much we're getting. Because I know they owe us, they're gonna give us a couple million or 1.5 or 1.7 or whatever it is.
yeah, the maximum, yeah, the maximum, no, I'm sorry. The maximum per our intergovernmental agreement that each municipality is contributing to the 911 Consolidated Center is 1.594. As it stands right now, we are at 2.834. But there's a 50% split. So as it stands, we're at 1.417. Responsibility for Broadview and responsibility for Maywood, which means we're still under budget based on the intergovernmental agreement by 177,000 and change.
Okay, I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying.
I'm not doubting that, I was just wondering
Yeah.
where's the money. And then here's a question in regards to the municipality. As you're removing furniture, I know some you're keeping, some you're not. Are we selling that furniture, or are we giving it away, or what are we doing with the stuff that's coming out that's usable?
Some of the furniture that was on the police side is being repurposed primarily from what I'm seeing in the building department area. A lot of the furniture that we had, number one, was on the village side and on the police side was since 1990. As the years progressed and the businesses moved out, we've been cherry picking as time goes, as businesses have left. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we obtained a donation from a company out of, I believe it was Palatine, that was rejuvenating their building, and we inherited a lot of furniture from them. Just because it's inherited does not mean it's in the best shape whatsoever. So a lot of that, I would say a good 90% of our old furniture was tossed because of unusable conditions.
Okay. And then the last question, to make sure I'm clear on this. Will the 911 center be up and running on the 22nd, or is that?
Regrettably, no.
No, okay.
And we're still waiting. In order to become operational on the 911 side, we still are waiting for some equipment issues. One of them is the UPS system that's been delivered but has not yet been installed yet. We're still waiting on the installation of the phone system as well as our radio system. And a lot of this was not able to be done until everything else was demolished and put into place. Rewiring the station for phones and internet capabilities and so forth took up a lot of that time, and it had to deal with when we were able to move in based on a construction schedule and then getting the stuff together. Ideally, I would like to see us operational as soon as possible, but I want to build in a little bit of a cushion The scheduling right now is fully operation the end of April, no later than May 1st. That's what I'm envisioning.
Okay.
But I don't want to say on this date we are
No, I
becoming
understand.
live.
I just, okay.
Yeah.
So I do, I appreciate that.
Yeah, believe me, our telecommunicators have been working out of a closet since the beginning of this project. They have taken the blunt of everything that has occurred in that building, from jackhammering to concrete sawing and so forth, maintaining 911 and phone operations out of a room that I am not joking is smaller than our cell blocks. It's roughly a 6-foot by 8-foot room that they've been working out of for the past 8 months, nonstop, with no ventilation or anything. So while a lot of kudos goes to everyone up here, the major kudos goes to them for working in the conditions that they have.
Well, I do
They're
appreciate
suffering.
it. But thank you,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, no problem. Do we have any other questions from the residents? Nothing? Okay. We'll move on to the next item. That will be item 4, discussion of the year-to-date financials for January 2019. Mr.
right.
Hicks?
Try to be brief. Total revenues for the month of January 2019 were $816,616, while year-to-date total revenues are $9,270,918. Year-to-date revenues are unfavorable versus year-to-date budget by $2.4 million. This is driven by the timing of collection of property taxes, which are unfavorable versus year-to-date budget by $2.8 million. Other taxes, specifically sales and use tax, are exceeding year-to-date budget by $175,000 and $91,000 respectively, helping to offset the timing of property tax collections. Lastly, charges for services, mainly ambulance billing, are exceeding year-to-date budget by $217,000. We expect property tax collection and distribution from Cook County to increase in March and April, which will bring total revenues in line with the budget by the end of the fiscal year. Total expenditures for the month of January are $841,000, bringing year-to-date expenditures to $9.9 million. Year-to-date expenditures are favorable versus budget by $1.3 million. The key drivers are the timing of the contribution payments for the police and fire pension funds, the village annual required contribution, which is called ARC, is levied as part of the annual tax levy. That ARC is budgeted within the police and fire's budget, but those payments haven't been remitted because we haven't collected the taxes for them. So that's why we're showing, that's driving the majority of the favorability that we're seeing in the expenditures. The executive department is favorable $83,000 due to lower legal fees versus year-to-date budget. Public Works Department is favorable $53,000 due to timing of supplies and equipment purchases. So, as the weather got bad, now they need to buy some of the equipment that they need for the winter weather, so that's driving that. In contrary to that, the Finance Department is showing as unfavorable versus year-to-date budget by $337,000. This is because of the payments for the general liability and workman comp insurances that were paid out of finance that need to be allocated to all the rest of the departments. So once we do that, then that unfavorability in the finance department will go away. Overall, we expect the village to continue to making financial strides as the departments continue to meet the mayor's mandate to be fiscally responsible and to work collaboratively as a whole. We expect revenues to pick up, particularly property taxes in March and April, ensuring we finish the fiscal year on budget for revenue. We expect that expenditures, although year-to-date are trending favorable, that once the property tax collection increase and the village makes the annual required payment for the pension funds, that expenditures would begin to trend right at or below budget for the year. That's it.
Trustee Tierney, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but talking to Tom Hood, the tax money's starting to come in now.
Right.
So we should be seeing a lot
Right,
more of it
yes,
soon.
I get a email from the treasurer's office whenever they have taxes ready to be deposited, and I'm getting one like every other day at this point. So this month, we should see the taxes start to roll in.
That's all I have, Tim.
Thank you for that report, definitely. And also, I do want to comment, I know the Broadview Bulletin had gone out with the Village of Broadview financial report, so I hope our residents were able to look at that to see what was going on regarding our finance department. So again, great job again, Mr. Hicks and Mr. Hood, and putting things together and breaking it down for the trustees to, to properly review and to keep us on track. And again, to the mayor, who has definitely set a number of standards and requirements for the departments to follow and abide by. So, that helps a lot. And again, we're all residents here, so it's important, the financial stability of this community. So at this time, I'm going to open it up. If there's any resident that does have a question regarding our financials. Does anyone have a question? Mrs. Redmond, do not worry. This is what we're here for. This is the forum for this, and we want
All right,
this.
well, I appreciate the report, and I do understand that we're doing well in the general fund, and that, I'm wondering, though, I got the bulletin, the spring bulletin, and I see a lot of pie charts, and I understand how things are being spent and expenditures and so forth. But I have a question regarding the water fund that I don't hear much about, but I see in here that we took in 2.3 million, we spent 2.1, and due to raises of water rates or whatever, we're not able to keep up the fund balance. But that's a pretty healthy fund, so I'd like to know what's in the fund, the water fund balance. Why are we raising the rates? I know that we got the meters, and I know that we painted the water tower, or gonna paint it. I don't know what else is being done, but what's going on? Because I'd like to know.
Well, I can tell you the water rates are adjusted by City of Chicago. We have no oversight on what we get charged by them. We haven't been charged for probably about 6, 7, 8 years, and now it's coming on us. That's out of our control. We have no control over that.
Do we know what the increase is gonna be from Chicago?
They give it, yep,
Do you
Mayor.
want to go ahead, Mayor?
Yeah.
Do you want to come up to the
Yeah,
mic so they could hear you?
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent observation, Ms. Redmond, as it relates to the water rates. We know in the past that the Village of Broadview has not kept up with the increases that the City of Chicago has increased over the years. And so the Broadview Water Agency, when the Chicago went up, the agency increased, but Broadview was the only town in the township that did not increase its water rates. So what I've asked the finance team to do is put an analysis together so that you all can understand at what rate we should have been increasing over a year, but we need to make sure that we're not putting too much of a burden on the homeowner, the water payers, because it's a big burden at this point. So we want to be fair before we start rolling it out, but it's a conversation that we have to have, and we have to be upfront with you all because it is coming. So we're looking to roll out the increase in June. But I want to make sure that we have an analysis together so that you can see from, say, 2011, 2012, and what the increase should have been and what the impact would have been at that time. So Director Hicks and the budget officer, Tom Hood, is putting that together for me now for me to review and to articulate, but we're looking at and then Chicago is getting ready to have another increase. So we got to look at that, and that's supposed to roll out in June, so we following the ordinances when, we're following their ordinances to see when that's going to actually be passed in the city, because it's going to impact us too, because we get our water from the city, so.
My question would be that, as a resident, will we have an opportunity to have a conversation?
Absolutely, we're going to do.
Numbers, well, let me just say, this was when the first rates were going up, and we were not here at the time, it was a different mayor. Numbers came and they didn't make sense, okay? And so, quite frankly, when we had the finance director at the time, was another person, we went to ask, and when that finance director would not confirm what those numbers were, there was suspicion. Well, I'm just saying, it was different than what we kept getting different, and I'm gonna say, I kept getting different numbers from different people that didn't make sense. water fund to just give it to us straightforwardly, the way you've been doing. I just would like to get it so everybody gets it rather than seeing it here and not knowing what's happening.
So in the newsletter, I put that in the newsletter just to put it on the radar so that you all can anticipate. As it relates to us doing a complete analysis, I think is to all of the residents and our business partners that utilize high volume of water to understand what that's going to impact. So we will do a committee meeting like this, not at a regular board meeting, because as you know, our regular board meetings is a business meeting. So we would do it in a platform like this so that we can address all concerns that a business partner may have or a resident may have with all the questions. So we're going to roll it out, but I want to make sure, because we have the numbers, but we need to show what the numbers were then to where we are now, and I don't know what that looked like today. So we're still waiting on that, but we're going to do it to where it's mindful to you all that have to pay a water bill like myself. So I think that's fair. And, you know, now that it's March, so we got April, May, June, so I'm looking to probably have that discussion probably right mid-April, early May. And then we are, anticipate June 1 increase, but we don't know what that increase really looked like, but it's something that we're going to continue to talk about. Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, if I could add on to that, Ms. Redmond, we can't worry about what happened in the past. It is what it is right now. It's past us. Going forward, everything's going to be put out there for everybody.
Okay.
And we'll continue to do that.
And I appreciate that, because I think that helps everyone.
Okay.
Was there any other questions from our residents regarding? Nothing? Okay. At this time, then, we'll move on to the next item. I believe it's Mr. Hicks again, correct? Discussing it's our financial policy, our fixed asset capitalization policy.
Yes, so the fixed asset capitalization policy currently is $1,500. And as I mentioned during our discussion about the fiscal 18 audit, that with all of the construction that we have going on, that really caused Baker Tilly to do a lot more testing for fixed assets than they would have done in the past. And so we took a look at that policy, and to be current with what other municipalities are doing, I revamped the policy or updated the policy for that number capitalization amount to go from $1,500 to $10,000. That policy was distributed to the committee members for their review, and I believe I answered any and all questions that was presented by the committee. But it's really there's no changes other than to take the capitalization amount from $1,500 to $10,000.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Trustee Tierney, on that amount?
No, I don't.
No, I'm fine with it as well. So with that, thank you, Director Hicks. Is there any questions from our audience at all regarding this? No. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, item number 6. It's our low interest rate loan application for capital infrastructure. Mr. Hicks?
Matt, can you join us for this one? Matt is working hand in hand with Chris from Hancock Engineering.
I'd like to welcome Director Matt Ames from our Public Works Department as he's joining us here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Ames, for attending.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
So can you just elaborate on the loan application?
Yeah. So it relates to capital outlay. And the fact that we know that probably about 80% of our capital outlay is going to be water improvement of some sort. Even the street restorations that will occur on the alley restorations in some areas will be predicated off of the fact that we will be repairing and replacing water mains. That being said, you're right. Ms. Redmond, I don't necessarily think that the water fund is as healthy as it should be. And in order to finance the approximately $30 million capital outlay that we forecasted. That includes everything from Bragger Drive that will start being reconstructed this spring, to water main replacements up and down Roosevelt Road, critical transmission mains. We're talking a little bit more than $20 million. We're talking a little bit more than $20 million, okay, in those improvements alone. And I believe that, to your point, what is it, about $2 million in the water fund account? Whatever that account balance is, it's obviously not gonna address our capital needs. Hence, Illinois has a program, SRF, the state revolving fund, where we can, in essence, make an application for a low-interest loan at about 1%. In the terms, the finance director and other folks smarter than me would know more specific, but that loan is specific toward the $20+ million, and how we pay that loan back is through dedicated fund sources like a water account, which has become not just necessarily stagnant, but we've actually started losing money because we have not kept up with the water rate increases. So that's it in a nutshell. We had some money set aside in special accounts for this specific project, the village-wide meter replacements and the water tower renovations, which is critical, and it is something that we have to do. I think we're at a place where Hancock Engineering had just finished the facility plans, which is critical in the first phase of applying for this low-interest loan. So I think that was on the agenda. It's passed over to our finance department. They fill out the financial piece that they have to, which is to indicate how they plan to pay this back. You know, most certainly it bodes well with our loan application if, in fact, we can show that we have reasonable water rate increases to offset those operational expenses that have increased over the years, because, once again, we've not kept up with the water rate increase imposed on us by the city of Chicago. So, did I answer everything, Mr. Hicks?
Yes, sir.
In a nutshell? So,
Do you have any questions for Trustee Tierney?
I know you put out a map, Matt, of what locations in the village, when their meters are gonna start. Can you kind of highlight that for us again?
I will. And for the residents that did show up in the members here, if you pass that down. But this is a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that I hope we will report it to the mayor's office, and maybe it'll be up on the website, simplified for other individuals. But basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving from a manual read system where our employees expend about 200 hours a month reading water meters. And sometimes that happens flawlessly, and other times, like this past winter, the readings are stretched out over a period of time, and I know some residents receive what appears to be a high water bill one month, and it should readjust itself the following month. So as they try and read, typically at the 20th, I think your billing cycle is indicated somewhere, but it's the same every month for your billing cycle. And our water reads, the manual reads, are started for the most part at the same time every month, with exception to winter months when there's snow and ice and the readers cannot traverse sidewalks and other things to make the reads happen. They may be put off when I say put off or extended, a week, week and a half. But those days that are added on that billing cycle should readjust itself in the following months, and that the billing cycle is not as big. So, this meter replacement will allow for what we call a fixed base automated reading system. So we're going through all of the technical upgrades with our LOSIS system, our administrators, our IT people, to make sure that these smart meters, as they're called, will provide real-time information to their customers. The billing department to your residents, so people calling and complaining about water that they contend that have not been used. Well, these meters will allow us to monitor on an hour-by-hour basis your consumption. We'll be able to remotely interrupt the water service at some locations, those places that we constantly go out to manually turn water off for whatever reason. We'll have the ability to remotely disconnect that service. And some other things that are spelled out in the PowerPoint presentation that might spark some questions. So if in fact there are any questions that has not been answered tonight, please feel free to call Public Works, and if we've got it, we will provide it. If not, we will get it for you, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, the maps.
The map.
The maps. I'm trying to.
I have a copy of it.
Right,
Are you
so-
looking for this, Director Ames?
Right,
I have a
yeah,
copy,
well-
and you also provided us with an installation schedule
That's
as
cor-
well for every area, so I got
And
that.
they've begun. They've begun Monday in Zone 6, as the map would indicate. And they're working their way to Zone 5, and the schedule's on the back. Approximately 30 days. The letters are self-explanatory. Should be someone there at the home that's older than 18 to allow them access, and that can make some decisions. If in fact this meter installation company comes in to make an installation and they find some plumbing issues on the residential side, they have a standard rate sheet for the repairs, valve replacements, everything that is supposed to occur for the meter replacements on the village side. Obviously, the village pays for that. But if there is some plumbing issues within the household that the resident is legally responsible for, and it would prevent them at that moment from replacing the meter, the discussion will be had. Unfortunately, we haven't had any of these situations for the first couple days of installations. And hopefully we won't have any, but realistically, we can expect that there's going to be some plumbing issues inside of some of these homes that just have not been addressed in many, many years. And if in fact, we can assist the homeowner in getting it remedied, we will. So, yeah, approximately 30 days every area. You will have 2 letters sent, the initial letter to schedule the replacement, and a follow-up letter, a final letter, indicating that if in fact you don't schedule within a reasonable time, and that should be indicated on the letter, that your water service will be interrupted, okay? And we don't want to interrupt anybody's water service, but we need to get this taken care of. And you will also be given a letter at the time making us compliant with governor's mandate, notifying you of the lead in your water lines. So any repairs, Governor Rauner actually mandated this through a direct governor's order that we have to notify the customers, the residents, the businesses, that they could potentially have lead sediments in their water at the time of repairs because of the vibration and construction that goes on in and around the pipes. So releases some of the sediments, and what you're supposed to do is flush your water lines out, okay? So anybody without a newer service line, obviously, we're talking, 30, 40, 50 years old service lines, you're probably going to meet that criteria. But we're going to just give you the letter just to, make you aware of it and make sure that we're compliant with that mandate, okay, that order. And there is a couple remedies for that, and you should find that on the letter as well. It leads you to a link, an IEPA link that talks specifically about lead in your service line and, who's more at threat and some other factual information.
Do you have any additional questions, Trustee Tierney?
No, what I get is it's gonna start in March, and program should be completed by September, by the end of September, right? 6 months, 6 olds, about 30 days? Okay.
That is the projection, give or take. So if we have cooperation with our residents, I think we should have no problem meeting that deadline.
Thank you, Director.
Director Ames, they're saying that each zone will take about 30 days, so there's going to be quite a few workers out there, from my understanding, correct?
We've
So they can
issued
get this done with all those homes?
We've issued temporary IDs for a dozen UMI employees. Right now, they've started the program with 2 of their senior technicians. Actually, one of the guys was here 15 years ago doing the meter replacements, and that was the last time the village did a meter replacements. And these meters are old, they're leaky, the calibrations are off. I know that I'd like to feel sure when I tell a resident that, the water has been consumed, and this is another way that we can pretty much guarantee that there is water consumption and not a meter issue. So,
Good, thank you. At this time, is there any questions from our residents regarding the water meters and the installation? Yes, ma'am. Just step up, say your name, and you can ask your question.
Brenda Williams. Thank you, Matt, for your information. However, I don't know what zone I'm in. Can I go to our village website and see what you're talking about? Or where will I get the information so I can see exactly for my area, my home, when this is supposed to occur? And secondly, if they come to my house, someone will be there, but let's say there's a problem, and they have to do the corrections that you made. Are we obligated to go with the company that you're working with, or does the homeowner can select another plumbing company? And if there's a financial reason that perhaps a resident cannot make the repairs, is there a time frame that they will have to get the repairs completed?
very good questions. The first one is there is a map on the website. I believe the mayor put that on the website, and I'm hopeful that the PowerPoint will be put up there as well, giving you information about the meters. And the second question was, forgive me.
The plumbing.
The option as it relates to the plumbing, of course. This is at your discretion. What we do is we're providing the convenience of letting you know what the rate will be. You're not obligated in any shape, form, or fashion to use UMI. And they will tell you exactly what needs to happen for the meter to be replaced, okay? And in terms of a time, we do try and be considerate of people's budgets, and we will address that on an individual basis as we did with our cross-connection Title 35 enforcement. And your last question?
Well, I just thought of something else. Is there any way that maybe, let's say we decide to go with the company that we're working with, and there is a financial issue that it can't be paid all at once? Is there any way that there can be a breakdown, like a fund set aside where like you make your payment and it's deducted, you have your water bill, and then let's say you have a repair for the meter to your home, so that resident can pay their water bill in full and still make an additional payment towards the repair that was recommended by the company. Are we anywhere near that?
Well, well, let me say this. I think just from a logistics standpoint, the village could probably, and that's, and I don't want to overstep my bounds. I think that's a discussion with the mayor and the billing department, how they want to work that out. I do know this, that you are more than welcome to use any licensed plumber that you want to. I know that UMI has asked whether or not we would be the collector of their fees, and that was something that I told them we didn't want to get involved with, okay? Mm-hmm. So we want to let the plumbing contractors work that out with a resident. We're obligated to come in and replace the meter, okay? We've made sure that they will make you aware of any issues that prevent us from replacing that meter. Okay. And at that point, yeah, we'll talk about on an individual basis, based on the circumstances, how much time is allotted, and whether or not there's some payment options with the village, which, once again, I don't make those decisions, so.
Okay, so then when the new process goes into effect, unlike ComEd, where they come by and read the smart meter or not, these people are going to be in a vehicle and will have like a little beam or something to pick up the meter, or what? They're going to still walk by and how is that going to be done? And I'll take a seat.
Right, no, that's fine. You can ask as many questions as you like, but no. The whole purpose is to eliminate that process. So we'll be able to do meter reads in a matter of minutes. We're talking village-wide, and that's from a fixed location, which will be Village Hall, which is where the computer is set up and all of the records are accessed with LOSIS for every individual location that we provide water to. So we'll have that information captured, and that's part of the database that's, you know, being created and shared. But they'll be able to log online and push a button in a matter of minutes, download a village-wide meter read. So the need for anybody to come out and do a manual read is literally eliminated, and that's the whole point. I've got 200 man-hours being utilized, being, you know, held hostage every month, and longer in some cases, the winter months, because people have to go out and do a manual read, no more, so.
I do have some questions too. So, and I do appreciate Director Ames, your explanation about the water fund and the need and whatever. I do understand that. But first of all, I want to know how much of a loan are we trying to borrow? I don't think 20 million, but how much are you, the 1%, how much are we looking at borrowing? Do we know?
No, not at this point.
Not at this point, okay.
No. So the first thing is to be in a position to secure the loan, and so that's what we are positioning ourselves to do. And so that, when we talked in our street and sidewalks and alleys meeting, when we talked about when you judge the fiscal health of an organization, it's the ability for a village or municipality to go out and to be considered for these type of loans. So that's what we're getting in position to do. We're doing the due diligence with Director Ames and with Hancock to understand what we would need to do in totality to replace the meters, and then understanding how that impacts the water funds and the amount of, because we need to show significant cash flow that will be dedicated solely for the repayment of the loan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that loan wouldn't come from any other source other than the water fund.
Okay, I do understand, and I appreciate that. Now I get questions about I understand the reason for the meter replacement, but what actually, the installation procedures, like, is this just the outside meter? Is that what you can call the meter? Are they coming in the house to replace whatever that the thing inside my closet, I don't know what it's
The
called.
meter?
Yeah, that's the meter.
Is
Yeah,
that the
that's
meter, or what is outside that they read?
That's a touchpad.
Okay, so-
That allows them to read the meter
All right,
inside of your
so
home.
that it's inside the house, and then will there be a touchpad be taken out too? Or will they put something else in, or nothing?
They're gonna put something else in. The touchpad will be taken out, and you've got some smart points, which should be in the PowerPoint presentation. And it'll tell you exactly what it looks like by way of the smart point readers. So if you, this will be up on the website. Page 12, yeah, page 12. So,
12.
yeah, this will be mounted where that touchpad is. The
Okay.
touchpad will be removed, and this will be put in its stead.
Okay, so I want to make sure when you say the responsibility of the homeowner, that's what could prevent these meters from being installed. Okay. How do you know? If pipes, are you talking pipes, or are you talking, are we responsible, are they going to patch up the wall when they put the pad in? You know what I'm saying? Is that part of your responsibility as the village to make sure that that is installed the right way outside?
Of course.
And then the meter is installed, so what is the issue in terms of what the responsibility that the homeowner would have to have? Because I don't understand. Is it the pipes that may be a problem? Is that what you're referring to?
That's exactly what we're referring to, because in most of the homes, they're going to be older pipes. They're going to be older pipes. So let's say, for instance, a homeowner has an issue with the leaky pipes right close to the point of connection. Rather than you and I disturb that area, which could potentially rupture the pipe and create a leak, they're going to advise the homeowner, you need to get this repaired before we can replace the meter. The homeowner's responsibility is the service line from the B box into the home. Okay, so I get this all the time. Where's the village's responsibility? The village's responsibility for maintaining the distribution system, according to ordinance, is up to the Buffalo box, the valve in the parkway, the driveway that allows the village to turn on and off the water. That's the village's responsibility. Anything beyond that going back to the residential home is the resident's responsibility. The meter is part of the village's distribution system, part of the ownership of the
Okay.
distribution system. The maintenance, and that's why you have a faulty or leaky meter, the first thing we do is we come out and replace it. We don't charge it. It's our meter. We need to come and replace it and make sure that we have a functioning meter there. But everything else is the homeowner's responsibility.
Okay, so clarification then is for me, to make sure I understand what you're saying. I understand with the pipes. So you're talking about not only just the pipes that could be the connection on the box, you're talking about the pipes that's leading out to the house to your connection out there in the parkway that could also have to be replaced. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, but that typically, I mean, unless you're just trying to mitigate your lead situation.
No, okay, I'm just saying, when you
right.
say what we need to be responsible for, what
Right.
could possibly, I want to get a picture of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what these prices are. How do we know what they are? Will we have certain things that they make an agreement with the village that they're only going to charge the residents X amount of dollars if
That-
they have to do certain amount of work?
That's
Or
exactly
they just
right.
get to charge?
That's exactly correct. As a matter of fact, we discussed the rate sheet. So these are prevailing wage plumbers. UMI, I mean, you look at the sheet here, they've been in communities all around here. It's on the sheet somewhere up in here on the
Okay.
PowerPoint. But as you see, Lombard, LaGrange, again, so these are our licensed prevailing wage plumbers that are going to be doing the repairs, okay? And once again, you're more than welcome to get anybody to do your repairs as long as they're licensed plumbers. You know, I mean, that goes back with the building department. Any repairs that the homeowners have to their homes should be done by a licensed professional if required, okay? And this is a required repair by a licensed professional, not by a relative that dabbles in plumbing and so forth and so on. So they do have a standard rate sheet that they're gonna provide you for, again, just basic repairs
Will
that
that-
they've
may I ask you-
encountered over the years.
Okay, will that be on the website along with this?
It should be up in here. What, are you talking about the pricing?
The prices?
The
Because
price
I
sheet,
think-
no, well, on the website, they're bringing that to your home. I mean, if in fact, well, if you'd like to see it on the website,
Well, I'm just, all I'm saying to you is this. I appreciate this handout. I think this helps, and this is gonna be on the website. That's great. I also think what the negotiated price, whatever the job is that you all have agreed to, so that the residents not only gets it from people that we don't know, even though you may have done business, we don't know them. So that we'll know whether we need to go out. If this is the reasonable rate, they're quality people, we'll go with them. If we got somebody else that's gonna do quality work, we're gonna go with them. So we have a way of comparing.
yeah,
And so
I don't know, I mean, it's transparent, without a doubt. I mean, it's
Okay.
nothing to be hidden, so I don't know why we couldn't provide that information to you, openly. I mean, unless there's something legally that would prevent it.
No, I'm
don't
just
know why
asking,
it shouldn't, yeah.
I'm suggesting that it would be put on the website.
Yeah.
That's just me as a resident, and I think it would help us.
And ma'am, I don't get to make those decisions either, but yeah, I would
Okay.
make the suggestion that they
Okay.
post it on the website.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and how long does it take? Is it an hour or two thing, or is it
No, about 15 minutes.
15 minutes for them to do it?
About 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Matt,
If there's no problems.
would you like to explain to her how the revolving feature works?
I'm sorry?
The revolving, she was asking about like 20 million, but it's a revolving loan. You wanna,
No, well, tell. Yeah, he's the finance
So,
director.
the reason why we talked about what Director Hood is bringing up is that it's a revolving loan, so once we get approval, that we can come back. So if we only need to, if we only have the ability to take out $5 million in one fiscal year, and then, you know, plan that out, and then come back and borrow additional amount until we get it all done. But the first and most important aspect is being fiscally responsible and being fiscally sound enough to be able to even apply for the loan. So that's the most important thing. And then after that, the key thing is that, you know, obviously we can't swallow, you know, $20-30 million in one haul. So the fact that it is revolving is a great point, that we can map out a strategy and then make sure that's included in every fiscal year going forward, so that we're addressing the infrastructure over a long time frame.
Was there any other questions from our residents? I know we kind of did two items together, because the way it led into it with Director Ames and Mr. Hicks, and that was our low interest rate loan app, as well as the meter installation, so we definitely appreciate that being covered. The only other item on the agenda that needs to be addressed is going to be by Mr. Hicks, I believe, will be our new bank accounts, which is called the zero balance accounts, and the two items are called payroll and accounts payable. So if you want to elaborate and discuss that.
Yeah, this will be quick. So right now we have one general fund account, and all the activity is funneling through that account. What we're proposing and what is best practice is that we pull the activity specifically related to payroll out and make that, and create a separate account for that. And then the activity related to accounts payable, payment of our vendors, that we take that account, that activity out, and create a separate account. Now, these accounts would be what we call, or what is called zero balance accounts. So those accounts would hold no balances. They will be linked to the current general fund account right now, and they would only be funded as checks clear for the accounts payable account. So if we had $1 million in checks clear during a specific day, then the account would just be funded with exactly what has cleared the bank. And then the same thing for payroll. So the transactions that are related to payroll taxes, all of the third-party payments to the healthcare providers, the benefits, those activities would be separated out, and again, they would be funded from the general fund account, and those accounts would only be funded with the amount of the transactions that have hit that particular account for that particular day. And this will allow for better tracking. It'll allow for us to reconcile the general fund account a lot quicker, and then it'll also allow for just a good, clean practice and us following best practices.
Okay. Trustee Tierney, did you have any questions on that?
No, just a comment. I think that's a good idea. We as trustees will be able to look at that and determine where that money came from and where it went. So I think it's a good idea. So thank you. You and Tom.
Yes, same thing here. I would have to, definitely that's something that should be definitely recommended. We should make a move on that. Again, it's part of our accounting practices, as you say, and it's just better to track and to reconcile, and basically it's an in and out. Whatever comes in is going out, and it's easier, and I'm sure the auditors would appreciate that. And again, anytime you're trying to do anything with transparency and you're trying to work with different departments and just doing everything, I think the cleaner it looks, it's easier to digest, as well as the accountability's there. So definitely forward. I guess that, but beside myself and Trustee Horn, I think this is something that obviously will probably be a recommendation going forward then. So we'll definitely look into doing that as the next step. Any questions from our residents at this time regarding this policy that we're looking to implement in the future? None? Okay. At this time, I know before the...
5 minutes?
You need 5 minutes?
No, I have
Do you need
5
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Hood, our budget officer.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to educate people, and specifically, I want to answer Shirley's question, because if she gets it, she can educate 20 more people. I'm at an advantage because you haven't seen the financials yet. You'll get them at the next meeting. But when you go to the water fund, you're going to see at year end, the fund balance is over 11 million. It's 11,185,000. And that's what people say, we got $11 million. Why don't you use that instead of borrowing money? When someone says that to you, you need to tell them, okay, you're looking at the statement of revenues and expenses, look up on the balance sheet. On the balance sheet, it lays out how much cash we have. Of that 11 million, 5.2 is actually in cash. There's about 85,000 in buildings, 905,000 in machinery and equipment, and then about $5.3 million in infrastructure that hasn't been depreciated yet. So that's basically your pipes in the streets, all of the things that are in the service. So that stuff isn't cash. We can't sell our pipes to do something else. So we have 5.2 million at the beginning of this year. But then remember, we're spending $1 million on upgrading our meter system, because we know that we've had a water loss issue in past years, and this is part of addressing that loss. Also, so right away, that takes you down from 5.2 to 4.2. In that 4.2, there's roughly $1 million, I think it's 900 and something, that is allocated specifically for the water tower account, for refinishing, rehabbing, whatever you want to call it. Now you're down to 3.2. We need about 6 months worth of operating funds. So water bills to the village, $250,000 a month. It all adds up. Even though there's $5 million there, at the beginning of this fiscal year that we're in currently, so that was what it was at the end of last fiscal year, most of that money is already allocated to something or is going to be needed for operations. So there is still cash left over, but it's not 11 million. It's somewhere between, 0 and $1.5 million that could be used for something else. But that something else might also be emergency water main breaks or any other things that come up. The other thing you might tell them to do is look at the cash flow statement for this particular water fund. What was the ending cash last year? What's the ending cash, what was the beginning cash last year? What was the ending cash last year? It's going to show an increase, and I didn't look that up, but I'm going to guess it's about $350,000. So that's money going in, but there's also money going out. And that's my point. You can't, if someone looks at that fund balance and tells you that they've got $11 million to do something with, they really don't understand what they're looking at. And if you can direct them to the balance sheet to see what the actual cash is, and then inform them what the uses of some of that cash is allocated for, it'll help them make an educated decision. Any questions?
If I could add this to that, Tom, and please forgive me. I forgot one of the most important things that will occur, and that is that we will go from reading in units to gallons, simplification. So what Tom was just saying was true in every way, and it's very, very convoluted unless you look and you know exactly to the point what you're looking at on the spreadsheet and balance sheets. But critical is that we're going to go from you guys having to convert your unit usage to gallons to just reading straight gallons. So that's a really easy conversion. You know what a gallon of milk looks like. So that's the way we're going to be billing you for your water usage moving forward. So that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Tierney, anything else?
No.
I know tonight we're joined by our Madam Mayor, Ms. Thompson. Do you have anything to add? And I appreciate you commenting earlier. So do you have anything in closing before we close our meeting out that you'd like to address?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say it's so important that we have committee meetings where we're able to educate the public on a lot of factors. And so I appreciate what you did tonight, Tom, as it relates to educating people on what the process and how you look at a fund. And that's the direction we're moving in going forward, is making sure that our residents and our business partners are educated on how we make informed decisions and how we move this village forward. So I appreciate that. The conversation as it relates to the water meter replacement, I think it may be important for the village administrator, Jones, and Director Ames to put a Q&A together. And then that way that'll kind of get a lot of questions answered that may come up, like pricing or if it's a plumbing issue. So I think that's something that Administrator Jones and Director Ames could work on together, because they've been working so closely together in this particular project on certain parts of it. The building, we're very excited to be moving in. And I just have to say this publicly. You know, Paul, when I first came into the village, Paul, he's so organized and so tactful, and he does an amazing job. So I'm just really grateful for you, Paul, for being the chair of the construction committee and just moving, because there's a lot of moving parts with this. And when I talk about a lot of moving parts, we're talking about working with contractors, working with attorneys, working with other municipalities, working with the 911, working with the county, working with the state, on top of his day-to-day operations that he have to run a telecommunication department. So I appreciate that, and just know that your hard work didn't go unnoticed, because I've been watching. So I appreciate that. But other than that, I don't have anything else to say. But you know, I do have I'm a full-time mayor. I'm here on a regular basis. So if you have any questions or comments that may come up after tonight's meeting, you're more than welcome to email me or stop by Village Hall, and we can have a brief discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this time, I'd like to thank the panel, and I'm also want to be thankful to the Madam Mayor that, to allow us to do this type of discussion, especially with our finance, and the Finance Committee has, determined going forward that we want to sit here as a panel discussion, that if there is questions, and because it is informal, different than our village board meeting where you have to do a comments and you have to wait to hear and this and that. One of the things we decided was to be more open, which allows a more of a discussion, more detailed, and it allows people to get more knowledge here. And we've definitely tried to cover everything within the village that's going on that deals with the finances, because again, we're all taxpayers, we live here, we take pride in our community, and we want to make sure we're moving in the right direction. And I think with the panel that we have put together, I'm not an expert, Trustee Tierney, Trustee Horn, we're not experts, but when we have people that are sitting up here that know what's going on, it just makes everybody more comfortable, and I think the residents appreciate how we've been proceeding with this panel discussion. And I know we were kind of lengthy tonight, you know, which is unusual. We try to do it within an hour, but, you know, we did start late. We apologize for that on the technical difficulty. But then we also had something that was important, and that was the upgrading of the technology for our new water meters. And I want to thank Director Ames for coming to this meeting tonight. And I know it's a little bit different because we stream live, so, you know, this is going out there, so, you know, we appreciate all the information, the packets that are being put together, the map that was done, and also with our village bulletin. I think a lot of things are being put out there so that we can gain more information and that we are up to speed. And again, we're working together. We're all doing this together. So at this time, I have nothing more to say. Trustee Tierney, do you have anything at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to call for an adjournment so that we can get moving on this.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm going to second it. All in favor, say aye. I want to thank everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next month. And thank you to our residents at home for listening and tuning in. Thank you and have a good night. Meeting adjourned.